This is a radio broadcast from the Good Boys Gone Bland. Seek shelter now. Hello and welcome to Good Boys Gone Bland, Season 7, Episode 7, Annihilation. I am Area X clone Denali, and I have no recollection of how I got here.
I'm normal Ryan. I'm on the radio comms back at base.
Hi, this is Jace. I got moved out of that area because of the poison water, I guess, the chemical spill. They took my house from me, and they didn't set me up with anything new, but it's what the government does.
Oh, that's very interesting, guys. Say, could you tell me where the human water supply is?
Citizen, we don't interact with any of the government agents. Please, over.
Oh, hold on, I'll handle this.
Okay.
You took my house from me, and now you don't want me to interact with this guy? He's cool.
Yeah, tell him, Jim.
Over.
Yeah, that's kind of their whole vibe. We really just want to be careful here. Actually, could you do me a favor, and what are your coordinates? Over. Wait, over.
Don't answer him, Jim. Fuck the feds. And that, folks, is Annihilation.
Dear God. That was so uninspired. I'm sorry.
So welcome to our show. We're 7 episodes in to our The Bunker season, where we are dissecting 10 apocalypse movies where the end of the world is at risk. And how are we feeling? We're almost done with the season now. We've had a pretty big variety.
I pressed a question to the group earlier, and I was corrected, I think.
Yeah.
But my overall impression of this season is that a lot of it is pretty clean, right? Like a lot of PG-13 movies.
Yeah, I think they are. They kind of trend towards that, right? Because these are usually big budget productions, and they want everyone to bring the family to watch, the big San Andreas fault rip open and The Rock to save the day.
Yeah, a lot of like normies watch these movies.
And this was like not a normie movie.
No, I think that's kind of the reason why it flew under the radar too. Is like it's Alex Garland, which is I love him a lot, but like his movies are never commercial hits.
Yeah, Alex Garland is visionary director behind 28 Days Later. I actually also followed him closely in the 2000s on the internet, because he was working on the Halo screenplay around when Halo 2 and 3 came out, and there was so much buzz behind it. And just to think what we could have had, considering the response for the current Halo show, where Master Chief takes off his helmet and has sex, which is
wait, what?
The two
I didn't
things
hear
Master
that.
Chief.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that was the backlash.
I didn't know there was any backlash. I don't hang out on that stuff.
Okay, there's a new Paramount Plus Halo show, and Master Chief.
Wait, in the first episode, he takes his helmet off and he has sex.
Those are the two no-nos.
Yeah, those are the two things Master Chief never does, is have sex and take his helmet off.
I'm not going to actually, I didn't hear anything about this, but I'm not going to knock the writer who was like, Master Chief's been fighting aliens for 20 years, okay? He wants to take his helmet off. And they had the power to put that in the script.
Do you know? Was it because there's a lot of ways you can go in that series.
Yeah. Was it with a human? Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it's with a fucking
is it
human,
Star
dude.
Trek?
Jesus Christ.
Oh, no, he fucking grunt.
No, he did not. Okay, we don't even know how that could mechanically work with the Covenant.
That's why I'm asking. Did they come up with some new lore?
They had to, because in canon, okay, I don't know if you guys read the Halo novels.
Oh, God.
Okay, I've read 4 Halo novels.
Wow.
And I happen to know for a fact that Master Chief...
fandom contributor over here.
Yeah, had a fucking inhibitor placed in it to inhibit his sexual desires. He is asexual. That's right, Master Chief.
He's an ace.
He's an ace.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was looking for the word. Anyways, it would have been sick, is what I'm saying. It would have been sick if we can have a Halo movie with this aesthetic, with some kind of twisted ass, imagine the Flood, how that could have been depicted.
Oh, man.
But you know what? I think this is the cool alternate universe where he adapts these books, and we get a cool piece like this.
So Denali, have you read the books?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned it maybe in a previous episode too, or just in a real conversation with you guys
Of the Southern Reach.
in IRL. Yeah, so I read the trilogy of these books like kind of all at once when they first came out, like in 2015 or something in college, and that was one of my favorite book experiences. Like I've never done that before, where I read everything at once like that. But yeah, I mean, I could probably color that in a little bit during our review. But those books are wild, man. Check them out.
Yeah, Julie has she's read the first two.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And we've seen this movie a few times, us together. It's one of our favorite movies. And so a lot of this watch experience, she read the books between our last two watches.
Oh, cool.
And she was like, yeah, that's not how they did it.
I think Alex Garland even said he read the book once and was like, I'm not rereading it. I just want to like do it from memory. Just so it's like a dream.
Huh.
You know? And
I like that.
I
mean,
too.
It's kind of like allows him to be like the audience, because even if the audience has read it, they don't have the book like open and they're not like reading from it as they're watching the movie. So like, it's their memory kind of versus his memory.
Yeah.
So when do we get like our authors of books really making sure that some of these things are correct? So it seems to me then, based on what you're saying, that I'm looking here, Jeff Vandermeer didn't have anything to do with the creation of the movie. It was like a hands-off sold IP, like,
and that's like usually what happens.
Yes,
too.
they sell a license.
Oh, get that sweet bank. Get out. Who wants to do more work?
Yeah, so when
give
it's
me
a
that
major
money, dude.
studio, you generally don't have author input unless the author is like, a heavy hitter.
yeah, okay.
And can tank your whole production if they come out against it. Like Stephen King doesn't. Even Stephen King can't really tank it anymore. Sometimes he like says that I do not support this, but then again he sells his books to anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, big studios will buy like rights in an entire package. They will not fund something that has somebody has the oversight on them. Like even when it's a director who knows what they're doing, most directors don't get final cut. And only a few directors do. And a lot of the times it's when they're working with a studio that they've like founded. I think, well, I'm not going to go into that.
I think a Stephen King season, just as a tangent, would be super sick to do because he has like 100 movies. And we've seen Pet Sematary, or Pet Sematary 2. And he has movies that are just as wild, just as bad, but also extremely good.
That's a really good idea.
Maybe for a future season.
Oh,
but yeah,
I have some.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So building on that, I was just having an idea for a new season because me and Julie have been talking about it.
Right. Oh, you think you're gonna get another one? Huh? You think
no,
you're gonna...
I'm just saying.
Fucking right.
What do we need to do next season?
Yeah,
and I'm thinking like, what actors are like famous enough that people are talked about? Like Ben Affleck, I guess. Matthew McConaughey, totally. Anne Hathaway, yeah. I heard someone mention Keanu Reeves in public the other day, so that was cool. So we did good there.
Okay, yeah.
But then I'm at my favorite locally owned, support small business restaurant, Cracker Barrel. And we're sitting there for brunch, and there's a table full of people next to us. Like there's probably like 6 or 7 people. And they're talking about movies for their entire breakfast. And they, for about the majority of the time, they were describing the plots of their favorite Denzel Washington movies, like one by one. And I didn't know if they were like actually a family or if they were like a movie club or something.
Was it like a seance where he's like, now you go. Escape from Pelham 123. A cop comes.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. But yeah, so I mean, Denzel Washington, he pulls. Like I don't think there's anything controversial yet.
Yeah, he's got some killer movies. And I didn't connect that John David Washington was his son.
What?
Yeah.
Is this from that nepotism post?
Okay, this wasn't from the post. I knew this before the nepotism post. Check it out on vulture.com. It's a good post. But yeah, he's got some killer movies. I'm trying to look up some Denzel movies.
Training Day, Man on Fire,
Flight. A lot of dadcore in here. Hello.
Yeah, a lot of transportation related movies as well.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Perhaps in a future season, after we do Fast and Furious. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, I mean, this movie, to like talk about, even to mention actors, like this movie's pretty stacked too.
Yeah.
Considering like
I don't think it gets made for 40 to 55 million budget in 2022 with the names that they have in here.
Yeah, you got Marvel's finest up in here. You got like Benedict Wong, Tessa Thompson, Natalie Portman. I mean, half
so
the
the
cast
Tessa
is Thor.
Thompson thing is pretty fortunate that this movie got made when it did, right?
Did she blow up like after this?
Yeah, with the Thor 2 or
Yeah.
3. And then I thought Jennifer Jason Leigh totally stole this movie.
She was so good. Like, I mean, we can we can get into the movie too, but like, yeah, her delivery was like super fucking weird and really good.
Yeah, I have like a whole little mini kind of speech I want to give about her. It's one of my favorite actor performances ever.
Mm-hmm. You guys think you guys think if Animorphs are real, they would be able to do this mission super good?
Animorphs?
Or would it fuck them up more? You
I
think?
think, yeah, F them up more.
Or maybe it would like fix them, because like, you know, you got someone like Tobias, right? Who's my favorite Animorph. He was the idiot who stayed the red-tailed hawk because he stayed too long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if he went in here, could it like undo it? You know, because it's like a prism. It like fucks with your DNA and your whole being. Maybe it'll turn him back
That's
into
a
human.
good point.
Yeah, I don't agree that the movie used the term that way. So hearing you say it's like a prism, it fucks with your DNA is just really jarring.
The movie was
Listen,
like a lot
I don't have
more,
like an English degree. Like these
the
writers.
movie took like 2 hours to get to that like point.
It's a prism.
Fucking refracts, man. It's like the glasses of water. All right.
The refracting totally
Yeah.
made sense when they were talking about RF waves. Got
Right.
that. And then I don't know, same thing, like they used mirror or things got mirrored a lot. That seems like a better way than the cells are refracting.
It refracts reality. This is the only cure the Animorphs have, okay?
Okay,
Did we
I'll
already
get-
talk about what Animorphs we'd be? Like, wasn't it
Yes,
the Ben
extensively. That was like one of
said
the
red
first
panda.
conversations where I was like, yeah, this is going to be a good podcast.
Okay, all right.
That was like 75 episodes ago.
Yeah, I think didn't I pick like clam?
An oyster.
Yeah, an oyster. Wait, Ryan, what did you pick?
I don't remember.
Do you remember?
I think I like birds. I like birds. So
It was a
probably
bird.
prey.
I think it was a
But
bird.
Jace, isn't the whole red panda thing?
Yes.
Oh, the red panda controversy where you'd say you'd repopulate. You would.
I didn't say that.
Okay, you didn't. You
I
didn't
kind of
say
feel
that.
like you said that.
I mean, like we kind of have it like
that
on
was the
tape,
whole thing.
and people bring it up. Okay.
I think
that's-
people have mentioned it in a lot of our reviews, even like.
What about Transformers? You guys think Transformers would do okay in this universe?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, I think they would be because we saw fungus growing on inorganic matter, and the only thing we saw that alluded to plant life kind of taking inorganic matter were the crystal trees. And I think that might have had to do with the proximity of the ocean. So like a tree mixing together with like crustacean.
Yeah, or like it was so salty they made like a salt lamp.
Sure.
Yeah, so I don't think machines got messed up in there.
Yeah, they didn't. Weird.
Why are Transformers like human cars if they're from a different solar system?
Do you
They
remember? Don't you
scan the
remember?
cars when they get
scan
here,
the
Ryan.
cars. They're biomechanical, and they show up and they're like, we need a disguise. So you know, Optimus Prime disguised himself as a big rig with a crazy fucking decal that no one drives.
Or would think is suspicious. But like,
I mean, how many cars would you
so they
think
didn't
are
just like go around to
robots?
different solar systems and be like, we need to find one that
Yeah.
has cars that look like us.
No, I
We'll
think
blend
I don't
in.
think
What are you
I don't think they
on
had
about?
cars. They showed up like naked, right? They were robots when they came to Earth. And then they're all like, shit, we're naked. They're going to know we're robots. So let's scan something that we can turn into. It's like for them, it's probably like contortion. Like we can fucking fold our arms in and make it look like, you know, something else. Like we can tuck it into our jackets, make us look like armless. So they can do the same by turning into like a BMW or something. Like
So
a fighter jet.
if there weren't any animals, would they just look like trees?
If there weren't any animals,
Yeah, like let's say they
Or
land on some
cars.
planet that's like Eden or something.
I don't
okay.
think they would be concerned about transforming if there wasn't sentient life. I think they just beat the crap out of each other. Because that's
sick.
like
Finally, we can
They
cut
should have went
loose.
there then.
that's like their whole thing, right? It's like for
Yeah.
no reason whatsoever. Like Decepticons and all about it's like we gotta kill each other.
It's a fucking war. It's a space war because Decepticons are fascists and Autobots, they love the Constitution and democracy, and that's
That's why they came here.
that's why they came here. And remember in Beast, we were talking about Beast Morphers the other day when there was no cars.
Yeah, I also got a complaint registered by an
complained?
unknown party that our
was it you?
Beast Morph conversation was too long.
Too long.
So
Okay.
we're already pushing the boundaries
Fine.
here with Transformers.
Then briefly, the Beast Morphers turned into beasts to shield themselves from Energon. So they can be animals, all right? So that was already canon. They can turn into anything they want. Bugs, blocks of
so
cheese.
It could be trees.
Cheese Wars.
Cheese formers. That would be good.
Cheese Formers would be sick.
That's in the deli.
A cheese world.
Yeah, like in the cheese
That's
world.
good, Jace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, like if they crashed into a deli.
They crashed into a deli.
Yeah.
and they didn't bother walking outside. They were like, quickly,
We gotta blend in.
just anything that's around.
A can of tuna.
They're like really small, so they think the deli is the world, you know.
Oh, so they're
Yeah.
tiny Transformers?
Yeah. Cheese formers. Cheese forms in
Robots.
disguise.
All these dang cheese formers! I thought I was gonna enjoy a sandwich, but it was a robot again. They're ruining the delis.
That's gruesome.
Dentists would love it.
What if there was
Okay.
aliens that were small?
No.
Let's go.
We just gotta weed out the people who like this movie but don't like our bullshit.
Okay, yeah, I have a question. I have two questions.
Okay, please.
The first is, who are our other two when we get sent into the shimmer?
Okay, yeah, don't worry.
Oh.
That's a discussion.
And then,
Yeah.
when you pass through the shimmer, is your mouth open or closed? I thought
You
about
only
that
get
for quite
one
some time.
Yeah. You only get one shot to taste the shimmer on the way in. So I'm going to say open.
Yeah, I eat a lot of stuff. If someone ever goes like hiking with me or
Yeah.
really spends any time with me outdoors, a lot of stuff goes in my mouth.
Right. So it's
I'm mouth open.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, like when you're doing like the debriefing, like can you imagine being the genius who was like, yeah, and boss, I tasted it. Anyone else taste it? Anyone else?
We would go crazy within 6 hours. Everybody else lasts like 2 weeks.
I mean, this is dangerously close, like as far as who we'd bring to our infamous conversation about who would do better in the Hunger Games that almost split our friend group apart
Yeah,
in
I
high
was about
school.
to say, like Michael's a pretty good choice.
can-
Also,
like,
he
this
would go crazy and could kill you. So
Yeah, maybe that's good. Maybe we can think about our guests. You know, our 3 guests.
Yeah.
I guess there'd have to be an odd man out. Michael for me is too strong. He's larger than me.
That's what I
and
mean.
If he went crazy, he could probably kill us.
I think he's just so equally prone, and he'll agree when he hears this, to getting hurt that he's getting killed by the
he's
bear.
a big oath.
I don't think anything changes in this movie. I
He
think he
wouldn't
goes
make
down
it
with the bear.
across the field to the shimmer. It's sprained an ankle.
Michael's never living down that ankle injury he's talking about. I mean, I know Joe is like a big fan of Swamp Thing, and I'm afraid that's he's gonna be thinking about that while he's in there.
We need to get some guests that are a little more mentally stable.
Yeah, do we have any? I mean, I don't know Ryan Ball's mental condition, but I know he's a teacher.
He's a
he
teacher.
said.
Yeah, it's probably like
It's probably
probably
terrible.
thin line.
Well, but he's also like a mathematician. He could figure some stuff out.
Oh, he would probably get invited, like legitimately, like because
Yeah.
they have different experts.
Why the
that
hell
come
would
in.
I be there?
You're a lawyer, dude. You fucking sign off on shit. Like they need a contract guy,
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
or if someone starts getting
I can
attacked, you'll
interpret
be
some
like,
statutes
you'll be like, you legally can't do that, and you
to
can't
the
sue us.
alligators.
Yeah.
This is assault.
I mean, Jace, you're a mechanical
Yeah.
materials guy.
I would have grabbed both of those tanks of propane, is all I'm saying,
Yeah.
at the house. And
Yeah, Jace would be a good pick. I think Jace would be like a legitimately good pick.
Yeah, solid pick. And then I guess I'd be a biologist. I'd be like the main character.
Well,
I'd
that's
probably,
easy for you to say.
I am the main. I'm usually like I think of myself as the main character. In most situations, and I think I would be in this one at least.
I think at the slightest hit of danger, you'd run and leave us to die. So you are most
what
likely to get to the end.
It's what she should have done.
I think I'm probably the closest analog to like Tessa Thompson's character, where like I would just be like, this place is pretty cool. I'm gonna be a plant now.
Ooh.
Okay, we're talking about the movie too much. You guys want to get into the synopsis and just like crack this thing open?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
baby.
because I've got another question
Yeah.
regarding the shimmer. So that's
Yeah. So I mean, Ryan, this was your pick. Break it down like the general skeleton of this. That way we can give our audience some structure. Because I think the audience is like, what's happening? It's like that they entered the Shimmer. We're just saying a bunch of shit to them.
And it's been 2 weeks. Yeah, so
Since you looked at me, sorry.
We watched Annihilation, if that's not clear. It's from 2018, which is rather recent, actually. I wasn't expecting that. Directed by Alex Garland. He made other hits, such as Ex Machina. Ooh, that was a good one. This movie is about a group of scientists led by Natalie Portman's character, who is a biologist and is ex-military. And her husband is also in the military, played by Oscar Isaac. And he goes missing. Oh no. So when he shows up a year later and doesn't know where he came from and gets super sick, she's like, WTF, bro. And then, a bunch of stuff happens to where she gets put on the edge of this secret kind of government containment area. And the government has a base there, and they're studying this thing that apparently crash landed in the United States. And it's spreading and it's growing, and they think it's going to take over the whole Louisiana. And so, they send a team in to figure out what's going on and why no team that's ever went in has ever come back out.
Yeah, I think that about gets it. And Jason, you said you had a question about this movie. I don't want you to lose that. What were you thinking?
Which, so like Ryan pointed out, meteor, or unknown UFO kind of crash lands, creates a shimmer. Shimmer's expanding. They talk about going into the Shimmer and how they've tried to go in from multiple directions, be it by sea, through the swamp that our characters go through. I was thinking about which way I'd want to go in, knowing that you black out for 6 days,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that inside the Shimmer in the ocean might be the scariest shark creature with claw arms that you've ever seen in your life.
Oh.
And I was like, would I really want to go in through the water?
I think the idea about the beach is a good idea. So eventually they get so far into the Shimmer, which is what they call it, and people be dying and stuff is not real stuff anymore. And they're like, do we turn around or do we keep going until we hit the coastline and then turn and follow the coastline out? And I think the coastline is not a bad idea, right? There shouldn't be like too much trees for giant crab people to hide behind.
I mean, unless they're sand crabs and come out of the sand.
Oh.
I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring recently, and just giant crabs coming out and lobsters coming out of the water. It's been very traumatizing. But I agree, Jace. I don't know. I think maybe even skydiving, from the sky.
I think that'd be terrible. You never open your chute.
Well, it seems like they're autonomous for some amount of time after they enter the ship. Yeah. What did they address this in the book that you recall?
In the book, it's a little. I mean, honestly, the movie takes 10% of the book. The book, what they do is they hypnotize everybody to go in, so they don't go insane. Because apparently, crossing the threshold of the Shimmer is so fucking disturbing that it just fucks their brain. So in the book, the hypnotism makes it so they can't really remember shit well. But I think Area X also scrambles your brain in general too. So it sounds like they were still exploring and shit. They just couldn't remember what they were doing. They're like, wait, what the fuck was I doing? I set up this shit and I wrote this stuff down, but which is kind of disturbing.
Yeah, maybe until they had enough of the Shimmer in them or something that they were like, oh, this is my environment now,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So skydiving, I don't know. I thought about that too, but then again, that's not a situation where I'm like, yeah,
I'm in control.
There's a thick margin of error here.
A fucking pterodactyl comes out.
They also might think, why did no team survive? Why did no team, live or ever come back? Maybe the skydiving has something to do with it. Maybe they're just splat.
Maybe. Well, listen, I would have raised my hand in that situation and been like, has anyone tried skydiving in? Or have they all just been walking in like idiots?
I have a question after his question. Have we tried nuking it?
No nuking in this movie. They didn't try digging underneath it and then popping out Diglett style in the middle of the...
That would have been pretty smart.
You do not want to be underground once you've crossed the threshold into the Shimmer. Just like a bunch of mole people like pulling you through through the dirt. Yeah, I mean, this movie, I think this kind of universe too kind of conjures a lot of your imagination because you see all these aberrations. Like what they say in the movie, we kind of touched on earlier, is that Area X, operates as kind of like this prism, like we were saying, and kind of distorts everything in there, including biological organisms. And it kind of makes you think about all the scary ass shit. We only see like 3 scary ass things in this movie, but it makes your brain go all sorts of places.
That's what I like so much, is because like after the first 2 things you see,
Yeah.
you're like, hell no, I don't want there to be a third thing. Like, please just go. I like the bears and the crocodiles are like the 2 things you need to be scared about down there. And they like turn into like the scariest version of those things I've ever seen in my life. So like the idea kind of to me would be like the next thing to go is like the humans, right? And that's kind of the way the movie goes. But this movie does such a good job of like saying, first things got a little weird, then things got pretty weird, and then things are completely unrecognizable. And I feel like that's a good way to keep like, the pacing going, because it is a slow movie. Let's be really clear. There's only about 3 or 4, quick scenes. And the progression of these people not being able to figure anything out. Because normally when you're in a place for like a couple weeks, you start to, put things together.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the sun rises here, the sun sets here, which is the direction we're going. But these people are just totally lost. And it wouldn't make sense. It would be really boring to watch if they were in the same place, at the same level of understanding, and things weren't getting more confusing. So I actually really liked how like they were sophisticated characters trying to solve a really complex problem, but it was just like way too complex.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned like in a previous episode, like one of our probably our horror season, Ryan, when you're talking about like how if the characters are really competent and they're doing like the right things, but the situation is still going downhill, that's like more scary. Like we didn't have Natalie Portman being like, oh, what was that noise? I'm going to go outside and walk into this bear. Like everyone was acting, like I think in the right way. Or even when someone was like losing their mind, you still empathized with them because it's still a scary situation. No one was acting stupid, I think.
And like the one time where, there's one scene in this movie where the shit just hits the fan. And it is so well done because like, you don't realize you're watching the setup for that scene in the previous scenes. And then everything hits at the same exact point where you're like, oh, what if that person was right and that the guy who's got his stomach cut open by his friends was not crazy? Like there would be like, you're kind of going under the assumption that the main characters have things right. And I really liked the kind of like the other shoe dropped, where like, oh no, Natalie Portman doesn't have any control over the situation anymore. And really nobody does. And in a movie that has so much crazy stuff, just seeing everything go as a free-for-all for like a couple minutes on the TV screen.
Yeah.
And that's a lot different when you're in a movie like Friday the 13th, where it's Jason Voorhees, and oh no, it's the main character, it's the big fight. And then this movie where you're like, there's a mutated bear who's half alligator, half person, half tree. And then there's a person who's crazy but has worms in them. It's like there's a lot more unknown.
Yeah. Like, I think this is the reason why I didn't mind too much at all that the movie wasn't faithful to the book. Like, I wasn't being like, that didn't happen, because he actually, like, Alex Garland and the writers captured the feel of the book, which is so much more important, I think, in this case, than actually capturing the beat-by-beat plot points. Because in the book, I wish I, like, kept the interview that I read, like, a while ago from Jeff Vandermeer. Like, the way he writes, he's, like, this weird, like, word scholar where he will take implied meaning with the type of words he picks. So like for example, he'll be like describing like a field of flowers in the book, right? And it's a long passage and all he's doing is describing flowers, but based on the words he's picking, you notice like something's fucked up is happening. Something fucked up's happening to the character's mind, and you get this building sense of like nervousness. You're like, oh shit, what the fuck's happening? This is really disturbing. And this movie kind of captures that, where they'll have like certain visualizations or like the tone or like the music and certain shots where you're like, something's wrong and I'm really nervous and on edge. And when some of these big moments happen, it's more like a holy shit than I think like a lesser movie would have been able to pull off.
I think that one of my first and like largest points throughout this is that the direction for the movie and a lot of the shots, I was going to make a meme about it. It was like they probably had a poster somewhere and it just said rule of thirds. And whenever somebody was like, how should we shoot this scene? He'd like swat it with like a ruler, like rule of thirds. Because they're one, that's why I also complained about the prism, because they talked about mirroring. There's so much symmetry in the movie. In the opening scene where she's being interrogated, where Natalie Portman's character is being interrogated by Benedict Wong, everywhere else, when they are in the Shimmer, I think one of my favorite scenes was in the Shimmer when they are entering the base camp where Kane, her husband, cut the guy's stomach open. We get this like really nice shot, rule of thirds, where it's very clear that they're traversing from wilderness into this camp, and your boundaries are set by the fence and the characters passing through that middle third of the frame. But like, so much of this movie symmetric in a lot of different ways and visually appealing because of it. But I think almost being so aware of it, I was like, I couldn't tell if it was being overdone.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So, like, I think one of the biggest criticisms of this movie is that the cinematography is a little kind of blasé for what they're going for. There was nothing truly innovative about the way this movie was shot technically, in my opinion. And that's something that you kind of expect from a movie that's this, like, big and in your face about how weird it is. Like, I thought the direction was absolutely fantastic. The casting was awesome. They've got these really, really incredible actors to do these jobs. And I mean, the production was so unique. I've never seen another movie like this. And if I do see another movie like this, it's going to be a ripoff of this movie. And I'm going to be like, hey, what the hell?
Yeah.
But the cinematography didn't really break any new barriers. And so I totally agree with you, Jace. And there were a couple, I would say, singular shots where I was like, oh, that's actually kind of interesting. But everything looked good. Like every single time I was thinking about what I'm looking at, I'm like, oh, this works really good. It's really effective. And that's okay. Like, there's nothing saying you have to break the rules. Like, sometimes you can paint by the numbers, and the numbers are there for a reason. Yeah, I totally agree that it's not that exciting. But yeah, if that's the biggest complaint about a movie like this that I can come up with, like, then hell yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah. Like, I think you can take a still frame from a lot of shots in this movie and make a sick ass poster. And that way, like, I mean, I made a comment to Amber, which probably is like an overstatement, but this is kind of like Space Odyssey for like biologists. It's a movie that's really abstract and obtuse. You have like these very slow shots, you know, really like cinematic. I mean, it's a movie, but like, you know, these shots that look like amazing and you can take fucking posters from. And then you have this 15-minute wordless sequence at the end that's all just visual, like hardly any audio besides just like the soundtrack. I think it's fucking sick to see a movie like this. We don't get a lot of sci-fi movies that really take like an artistic flair to it. So pretty cool.
I totally agree. And I think the strongest, as much as I love this movie for like the visuals and the acting, especially by the two main leads, I love this movie more than anything for the score. Like, the score is up there on my Mount Rushmore. I think that, like, especially the end scene is just so phenomenally well done with the music choice when they choose songs that already exist. It's great. But then when they have like an original song too, not just like a background music.
Yeah.
It's so well done, because the thing kind of about like the visuals refracting into patterns, like that's what music is. Music following patterns. And for if that end scene just had like a kind of a drawl in the background that tried to make you feel uneasy, we wouldn't get the point that they're making about everything being repeating.
That's a good point about like the music kind of reflecting the visual aesthetic. And that sequence was fucking amazing. I think I mentioned this to you, Ryan, a while back too. Like that sample in that end sequence, that kind of like drone, is sampled from like a Moderat album. It's Moderat. Like that's an album I really liked in college. Check it out.
I know.
You guys...
And you told me about that, and I started listening to that album too. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. And if you guys really like the like textural aesthetic of that, you know, check out Moderat. It's like very like 2013 dance music, but it's still a great album. They take a lot of that aesthetic quality and atmospheric, you know, cool ass album.
Let's be clear. This movie as an experience for you, the listener, if you have not watched it, I would slap you if you listen or watch this movie on an airplane. Do yourself a favor. And one, I think which could be a criticism, watch the movie in a dark room, because even on a very bright screen or a bright TV, it's a visually dark movie, and they use a lot of contrast between the outdoor and indoor scenes. And two, do yourself a favor and listen to it in the best way that you can, because it really, this is like the type of movie that watching in a movie theater would be probably probably the best way, because you have that sound system.
So Jace, have you seen this movie before?
I've watched this movie 4 times. I think 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of fans here. Yeah.
Because I was like, yeah, I didn't know how you would react to it either. So I thought you would really like it, but yeah, no, totally. So one thing I want to talk about with the audio is that when I first watched this movie, I watched it just in my apartment on my TV at night, but there's a certain, and I bring this particular clip up like when I'm talking to anybody about movies and a similar thing comes up, but like most movies, the jump scares are visual, and then they take an audio clip and they go like ding, like to make you scared when something happens. It's kind of like a fake jump, and that's a lot of the ways horror movies build up, like at least, slashers and stuff, they build up like that. But you can create such an atmosphere with just audio when nothing is happening on the screen. That's normally what we associate with like a suspenseful movie, right? Like the kind of the general sound in the background tells us what to feel about what's happening on the screen. But this movie does the only, in my mind, that I know of, the only like audio jump scare that I've ever had in my entire life. And it's not like the fact that something was said or done or there was a noise when I wasn't expecting it, but like what is said made me jump the first time I watched this movie. And so that once again, if you have seen this, or if you haven't seen this movie, turn this episode off. But at the end, when they're in the lighthouse and Oscar Isaac his character has the tripod set up, and there's a burnt corpse against the wall that Natalie Portman sees the camera looking at this corpse that's like self-immolated. Mm-hmm. And so she watches the recording on the camera, and turns out it's her husband. So already you're like, oh man, this is freaking wild. And then he starts talking to the camera before he self-immolates. And I mean, that's a character we know that it's alive.
Yeah.
Like, we know that character's alive. Mm-hmm. And he says, we think he's talking to the camera, and he's telling the person watching the video, hey, look, this is really crazy, yada, yada, yada. Like, I'm going insane, but I need to kill myself. And then he says, if you ever see my wife, tell her I love her. And without anything changing on the entire screen, this is all happening like as you're watching him sitting on the ground with his grenade. And there's a voice that's like really, if you have like, this is one reason why the sound you watch this on is going to be so important. It's like the voice is like really, really present. And it says, it feels like it's standing right next to you. Mm-hmm. It's like, because in reality, Natalie Portman's character is watching this movie, and so are we. And then a voice from the same position that Natalie Portman's character is standing at says, I will. And like the knowledge that this character is not alone, he's talking to someone, and we thought he was talking to us, and it's the same voice. And then 2 seconds later,
steps in front.
After the grenade goes off, he walks in front of the camera, and it's that character again. And we're like, whoa! Like, so that like the I will moment. I remember me and Julie both jumping out of our seats when that was said, because we were watching on like full blast on our TV, So yeah, I totally think this movie does some things that are very, very, very creative.
Yeah, that's a great scene, Ryan. And I mean, you're probably going to bring this up anyways too, but like the other really scary ass audio thing we were talking about is the bear scene.
Yeah,
where
help me.
Yeah, she's replicating the scream of the scientist it killed, which kind of ties into like the whole, like, I think you've probably seen this, like the cancer metaphor of this movie, where they're doing multiple references to cancer throughout. Like Area X is expanding. They're talking about like, cell biology and mutations. The line about like to be remembered in your last moments when you're suffering, which is kind of like a fear of a lot of cancer patients. That was just like profoundly disturbing in that scene too, where it's just like the last moments of that suffering scientist is being blasted out of this bear in this really great scene where they're all tied to chairs and they're about to be stabbed by like the one like crazy scientist. That was just like fucking A+, like I don't know, what would you guys do? What would you guys do in that scene if you're fucking?
Am I strapped to the chair?
Yeah.
I would absolutely. Somebody else would need to be like, do not react. And that bear putting its mouth on Tessa Thompson's
holy
character and then like
shit.
biting down.
Because how did she know that? She was like, "Don't react, guys. I won't attack you."
Because it
I'm like, I
wasn't
would've
attacking them and they
fucking
weren't reacting.
I wasn't doing jack shit before, man. Yeah, what were you gonna say, Ryan?
It reminds me of I was doing some Googling, but I
Yeah.
cannot find the answer, so we can leave this part out. But there's a movie where the bad guy or like a ghost or the whatever the bad creature is, before it's like set in for the characters, there's somebody who says like, "Oh, hey, I'm in the kitchen." And then the main character starts walking towards the kitchen, and then the person that they heard speak grabs them from behind and says like, "Shh," like, "Oh, someone's replicating my voice in my own house." Like that sort of vibe comes to the bear scene, and I totally love that scene. That scene scared the absolute shit out of me. So this was the third time I've seen the movie, but the second time I've watched that scene, because the second time I watched the movie, I'd close my eyes.
Yeah. I think that was like a creepypasta on Reddit because they were like, "Shh, I heard it too." And it was like
there's like a
right, yeah.
famous story or like a movie,
And that's a good ass like piece of like internet literature too. Like that's fucking creepy. That always gives me like chills when I think about it.
We're talking about the scene right now. And we talked about the scene with Oscar Isaac on the hand cam. Did either of you notice the change in accent? Like in that scene?
Oh, yeah.
Or it really pulled me out of it. Like I felt like the first, and I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be artistic or not, or he was like, he was saying he was going crazy. So maybe he was like attempting to act a weird way. But we've heard multiple lines of dialogue from him in the movie, and he starts that off in like a weird Southern American, like a Southern accent where he's like, "My name's Kane," and then like 2 sentences later shifts back to phosphorus grenade. And I was just like, I don't think I picked it up any of the other times I watched it, but this time, like with a critical eye for the podcast, I was like, what just happened?
Wait, because Amber commented on that too, because she was like, "Is that the same guy?" Wait, no, because he has a different voice. And I'm like, no, it's the same. Like, I bet you, like, that was the first scene they filmed, and they got like such a good take. And they're like, "Yeah, he's talking funny, but like, we spent all this money on the phosphorus dummy, and like, we can't redo it."
Well, also the A-listers don't get direction,
Oh.
They get leeway on how to deliver their lines.
Right. And he's like, "I think I should do a Southern accent in just this one scene."
For 3 sentences, and then I will talk how I talk in every other movie.
Yeah, Oscar, like, I was in Star Wars.
He was...
You shut the fuck up.
Trivia piece, he was recording this and Star Wars at the same time, 2 sets next to each other, using the same trailer for both.
That's
Wow.
awesome. Shit. Was it was Last Jedi, right? Like probably about this time. Yeah.
I just read the trivia on
Yeah, that's cool though. I mean, that's shit.
He's also in Alex Garland's other project, Ex Machina.
Oh,
Which,
God,
I mean, that movie I walked into blind. My friend was like, "Let's just go see it." And we watched it in a movie theater. And so that was another really great experience for me. So I went into this movie blind and Ex Machina blind. And I could totally recommend going that way. If you have listened this far in the podcast, that's no longer an option.
Yeah, Ex Machina is another amazing movie.
Are we starting to notice a pattern in his movies where they do not have a happy ending?
Well, Ex Machina was happy for the robot.
2 men were like beaten. Well, one starved to death. One was beaten to death.
About that and about the ending, I heard there is but didn't read enough to fully clarify that the main producer of the movie thought that the ending was like a little bit too intellectual and wanted it changed, but I'm not quite sure if it was for the theatrical version that we just watched. So do either of you?
No, it wasn't changed. Yeah, because
Okay.
like I read a similar trivia, Jason, and that was like apparently the executives wanted to change the ending and like you said, like make it not so like intellectual and shit. But I guess the producers, to their credit, stuck with the director, and they were like, "We're not fucking changing the movie. We're gonna keep this like obtuse ass crazy movie." And what sucks is that the executive was right from like a financial standpoint.
Sure,
This movie bombed ass in theaters, which sucks. But I think they get so much more cred and respectability because, like, this is like a cult hit. People went back and were like, "Oh, this was underappreciated." You know, people. I heard like they kind of recomped a bunch of revenue just from like DVD buys of this movie, just because, like, you know, I think there's a certain subset of people who really, really fucking enjoyed it and were willing to go out to bat for it. And that's what like being an artist is all about. You know, it's like having people who really fucking love what you're doing versus just having a shitload of people just kind of like what you're doing. I feel like it's more meaningful.
I totally agree,
sense.
Denali. And that's why I like watching these movies and not always watching blockbusters because let's be real, even the people who go to watch blockbusters don't love them. Like,
Right.
So I had a really great experience watching this movie, and it's one of about, I think, 3 movies I can think of that I didn't have any expectations going in, but I saw them in theaters and was just completely blown away that they instantly were at the top of my favorite movies of all time list.
Nice.
And so I have a list of my favorite movies on Letterboxd, and Annihilation is in there. I mean, it's up with like the best movies I've ever seen because I liked watching them. Not like, I shouldn't say the best movies I've ever seen, my favorite movies.
Right.
Because like the experience of watching this movie is so much different than like breaking the movie down into its component parts. And this movie can be described differently by 2 different people, and people will think it's not the same movie we're talking about. And that's why like us 3, I'm really excited to like look at our movie scores and stuff because it's going to be interesting to see how each of us interpreted things differently. And that's not what you want when you want a big, you know, commercial success.
Yeah, I agree. And right, have you seen Stalker yet by Tarkovsky?
No, we're not allowed to talk about Stalker because I haven't seen it.
All right. That's why I saw the movie Stalker, and
I know, yeah.
I want to talk to somebody else about it.
I know,
watched
I'm sorry.
that fucking 4-hour movie. I can't. I'm holding it all in. I can't even vent about it. All right, we're back from a brief break here. And before we get into like our meters, I do want to talk about kind of the end of this movie, right? Like there is a wrap up,
Yeah.
you know, a solution, and you know we talked about like the end sequence where Lena encounters the silvery copy of herself in that really awesome wicked ass scene where she encounters the alien, and then what? She kind of convinces it, or she kind of like tricks it into taking a phosphorus grenade and burning itself.
Yeah.
Right. And she burns the whole lighthouse, which is the source of Area X and the Shimmer. And the Shimmer's gone.
That's what
we did it, guys.
Really leads me to believe a missile could have a singular missile understanding the coordinates of that lighthouse could have solved this entire problem much faster than 3 years.
No,
And
Jace,
I
the
get
missile
it.
would have gotten confused.
The missile would have been like,
am
I'm a
I?"
deer.
I'm a deer now. I mean, they did say guidance systems got fucked up when they try to send shit in, like drones and shit.
It goes in a straight line.
Guided missile, yeah.
Yeah,
Would-
but like,
would
what
not
if
work. But if
the
there was
missile
just a-
engine is like, you know, where am I?
It also has a diameter. You know where the lighthouse is. Fly a helicopter
I don't-
2
but the
miles
thing
above
is
it
they
and just
didn't
go.
know-
Doof.
They didn't know what was at the lighthouse.
That's true. They wanted to know.
Yeah,
It might have been an actual alien.
I think
Which it
you know,
was.
if this was directed by anybody else and not written as a book,
Michael Bay.
based on every other movie we've seen, the U.S. government would and should have nuked it. And you know, I'm reeling from the fact that it was not in there.
Yeah.
I'm glad that there wasn't like a president scene either.
Oh God, yeah.
Could you imagine like
waiting, Mr.
They have
President.
2 weeks to get to the lighthouse.
Before we fucking nuke it.
I'm Richard Nixon II.
I love how because they didn't like just try to destroy it because they were like excited about the alien, and like Benedict Wong was like, so you saw the alien, right? He was like so excited, and she was like, nah, I don't remember what it looked like. And he's like, come on. He's like, what did it look like? What did it say? What did it want? She's like, I don't know. And, like just giving the most frustrating answers.
It reminds me of SpongeBob when Plankton builds a robot of him. And he's like, now make me a Krabby Patty. It's like, I don't feel like it.
Yeah, and the Lena that comes back is revealed to be a mimic, right? You know, like she has,
Or at
the
least have the
shimmer.
shimmer in her.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask that question. If the I mean, we've obviously talked about the book being completely different than the movie, but I really couldn't tell in that scene if it was just that the effect of the shimmer has persisted in her biology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, in the movie, like, just if we consider the movie and just like its own, insular thing, like, I think that's a legitimate interpretation that maybe she was corrupted by the shimmer just from being in there, and maybe Oscar Isaac's in the same way. In the book, and I guess in like book spoilers, it is like confirmed that she is a clone, like that comes back. And Oscar Isaac, her husband, is actually dead, like in the book. Like, he dies of cancer, like, really quickly as soon as he comes back, because all the copies are like fucked up versions. And the second and third books is actually following Lena's copy as she tries to backtrace what happened to the original. And she's kind of like working with the Southern Reach and like the new director, and they're like trying to figure out what the fuck is happening. And it's kind of cool. And she assumes like a new name because she has a different identity, like Ghostbird. But like, I mean, honestly, this movie could have a separate interpretation just because it's so different.
I mean, visually, it has to, unless you're asking us as the audience to accept that in the short amount of time you showed, like, they played with time a lot. Mm-hmm. A lot of the cut to blacks for in between these scenes were time skips also, so that they could forward the plot without, dragging us down. Say like, hey, this is where we put something in the past because we need to waste 6 days. We need to waste this travel. There wasn't much of that at the end. There wasn't enough of that at the end for me to feel comfortable with that without it feeling like a cop out, because there was such it was so tight beyond her getting hit in the head, getting punched, that like if you're saying that anywhere in that sequence there was a clone created that wasn't the first one that she killed, then I'm like, what happened? Yeah. What happened? What?
I think for me, it's like they thought that the fire killed all the things in the shimmer, but maybe not like, the animals that have the shimmer in them, and she already does, even though like there wasn't another copy that came out of the lighthouse with her, like, because she had the shimmer in her before she went in the lighthouse, so why wouldn't she have it when she came out? She didn't burn.
Wait, she had the shimmer in her before she went. Oh yeah, because she was being corrupted by it. Yeah. Like, I also think we don't necessarily know that her copy died, even though we saw it on fire and like kind of collapse. True. We don't know if it was completely destroyed, which is possible. And the bigger thing for me is that like Oscar Isaac, who we know was a mimic, had the same shimmer in his eyes. Yep. So that to me was kind of like, they could be the same thing, but either way, much like, metastasized cancer cell, you have these two remnants who could still wreak havoc on our world despite Area X, being, wiped out in this movie. Okay. Which, by the way, doesn't happen in the book. Just saying.
I like that, and I'm glad you put it forward, because I think the end scene could have had the same emotional weight without adding the almost gimmicky eye CGI, where she really addresses that he alone is not the same one, and then she's okay with that. Because really delving into what these characters and the reason what these characters' motives are, and the theme of self-destruction, right? Yeah. Like, she went into the shimmer because she cheated on her husband, and now he's dead, and she's experienced the shimmer herself. And maybe it's a weight off the character's shoulders that she her character did what they could, but then, it's not her husband. So in a way you can, deflect around the actions and what the character did in the past. And,
like maybe having him there gives her some kind of like redemption a little bit. Like maybe she can. Yeah, that was an interesting part of the movie, like the theme of self-destruction. Like they implied that the husband kind of was more willing to leave and go in this like kind of suicide mission because he knew about like the affair. And she was carrying a lot of grief and guilt from that too, and was also just grieving because her husband died, and wanted to go in there too. And they kind of talk about like this pattern of self-destruction that humans are driven to, which, I think is an interesting theme. I don't know if I agree with that thesis, but like,
I agree.
For the movie, it was really cool. And then that scene building up to when the psychologist, she says the Annihilation line, which I thought was just a really cool way. That was the coolest use of saying the movie title I think we've had this season. They say it once, I think, once or twice, and it was
you
more
didn't like in 12 Monkeys when every time they said the movie title, like those weird circus music started playing?
Yeah, and well, it's what's crazy though, and like I don't want to talk about. Sorry, I'm talking about the book so much. This is not the book review, but like the book mentions the word annihilation, and it is used completely different than the movie. Like in the book, annihilation is a code word for like the hypnosis, but in this one, they used it to tie like this narrative together about like the theme of the movie. And I was like, that is so fucking cool. And I think that works for the movie like better than they could have done like than if they just did a 1-to-1 adaptation.
Yeah, I think I agree that the themes of this movie, might not be 100% buy-inable, but I like that it has themes. It's not just like, what if the moon fell down?
The theme is moon falling. And I mean, I would love for them to make like an Authority, which is like the sequel book. But like, can we make our own Annihilation 2? Like, what would we do for a sequel to this movie?
First off, we're gonna not stick by what actually happens in the book. Okay.
Yeah.
She's gonna move to LA.
Okay.
She's gonna strike out on her own and try and get a foot in the business.
She's gonna DNA the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yes, I like
turn
it.
into a beast bridge.
And then we find out that a rogue satellite has pierced the ozone layer.
Ooh, yeah.
And then Bruce Willis is in it for some reason because he's in all these.
Okay, well that's a cool one. I was thinking like the clones.
That's gonna get a budget of $400 million.
Yeah, you can just.
That's getting greenlit over whatever else you say.
And that's how much you'd have to pay Natalie Portman alone just to even entertain
Annihilation
this idea.
2, Electric Boogaloo.
She's like, absolutely not. No fucking way. What about the clones are now beast morphers, and they have to defend the planet from evildoers because they have the DNA
No
powers.
more beast morpher content.
Okay, I'm just saying, what if they were?
Was it contending with anything big at the box office? Because
Well, I can
play
open up the
this
box
game.
office corner. There was a certain big contender when this came out. It's huge. Okay, this
can we
one
guess?
was like, yeah. I'll let you guess. You want to just 2018?
Was it is it
probably
similar
a
genre?
Marvel movie.
Black
We're getting there,
Panther?
Jace. It's the Black Panther. Number 1 that week, and then Annihilation was number 3. Number 3 that week. Can you guess number 2? I bet you can't.
Was it its first week?
Number 2 was in its. Let's see here. It was in its first week. It made $5 million, and it starred. I fucking watched this movie. I don't even remember. Has Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams in it,
Oh,
and the kid from Freaks
Game
and
Night?
Geeks. It is Game Night. How'd you know Game Night? You remember Game Night?
I think Denali, did we see that together?
I don't think we saw it together.
Jace, you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
I
think
one
one
more
more
ticket,
ticket,
we
we
would
would've
have made Annihilation 2.
I saw Annihilation. I believe I saw Annihilation in theaters.
Well, should
that's
have
it.
twice.
Maybe.
This was.
Hard to
I
say.
didn't. 'Cause this was when I was dealing with my concussion. Couldn't watch movies for a year. I had to watch this shit later.
This was the movie you chose to come out of that with.
I was like, all right.
Am I currently having another concussion? I don't
think
get it.
I'm
Everything
still
on the
right now.
TV looks normal.
What if they built a good shimmer to fight the bad shimmer?
Oh, interesting.
Like instead of refracting all into bad things, they refracted into good things that didn't kill. All right, let's do the disastometer, right?
Yeah.
Disastometer. How disaster was this movie? And I guess Ryan, you start us off. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so once again, we do 2 different meters. It's not called the disastometer either. It's called the apocalypse.
Could be.
We do.
mean, if
we
we
rate
wanted
it
to.
on a scale of how does it comport with what we think the theme should have, and then we rate it for a movie. So first, I think this is a difficult one. This is almost not an end of the world movie, right? I mean, it does have an alien presence. So this is like a takeover movie. I call them takeover movies where like you have Signs or Invasion of the Body Snatchers and stuff like that. My favorite movie, The Thing, is a takeover movie. And the implication, I guess, would be what if this got into the real world unchecked and it took over the whole world? That's kind of the only end of the world scenario I see from this. Unless you
Right.
live in like Shreveport, Louisiana, then I could understand you thinking this is end of the
Is
world.
there a Shreveport? Did you just pull that out of your ass?
Shreveport?
Yeah, is that a big? Do you know Shreveport, Jace?
No, but was it said in the name of the movie?
No,
I think it takes place in Florida.
Huh.
Oh, I thought it was in Louisiana.
Yeah, it is. It's
If
like
this thing was
based
in Florida, there'd be
yeah.
photos of it all over Facebook. But yeah, so I don't know. Like the end of the world didn't happen, so that's something off. Yeah, not many other like that points if we normally hit. There's not like an impending doom. And so as much as I want to say like The Thing is an end of the world movie, because in that movie, Kurt Russell's character actually runs like, or I guess it's not his character, but somebody runs a simulation that says, what if this thing gets to the mainland? How soon will it take over all humans? And we're told the answer. In this movie, that's never even discussed. Usually that is, and all Ventress says is like, it'll take over states. So I'm going to have to go pretty low. So let's go with like a 2, which,
All right, a 2,
I mean, once again, it's not how I feel about the movie, but I think this is a kind of an edge case. And it makes me understand like the difference between a real end of the world movie and a movie that's kind of end of the world adjacent.
No, I agree, Ryan. Like, my apocalypse is also not going to be very high. You know, the threat of Area X was, as you said, described to be expanding, which was legitimate. Like, that is like a concern that they don't know like when this thing's going to stop. And they did show like the previous Southern Reach office that got swallowed up by Area X. But there wasn't like a sense of urgency to hurry up and stop it. There was more of like a focus on the exploration of its like nature. It wasn't like you guys got like fucking 1 week before it expands again. Like they didn't have any of that to the movie's benefit. And we didn't get scenes of like the Shimmer pressing into new territory and people getting like consumed in it. And they're like, like, yeah, that's coming. There was no birds doing weird shit, which I feel like would have been perfect for this movie.
One bird.
Was there a bird? When was the bird?
One single bird on top of the guard tower. Bird flies away. Doesn't do anything else.
Wow, just
Nothing
some
else, it
bird
was
watch.
I was going to complain about that.
Thank you for the bird. So the bird was doing normal bird shit?
Yeah. It could have been like
okay.
a wasp bird. And it
Yeah,
wasn't. It was just a regular bird.
In a movie where every animal is fucked up, they chose the bird to be the normal one. Okay. And then no Golden Gate Bridge. Actually, like no San Francisco at all in this movie, unless you guys saw a scene.
How dare.
There was that. Yeah.
No, she's from Baltimore, too, because she's from Johns Hopkins.
Different ass coast. So, and then there was no staying behind to trigger the bomb, which is, they got kind of close with like the clone grenade scene, but like that's not going to cut it. You know, the clone is not the main character. So
that's not a technicality?
That's not a technicality. Listen, I'm a fucking ref over here. So this is going to be pretty low. I do think this was a danger, okay? But maybe this is not really like a apocalypse movie. Like if someone's talking about like, Annihilation, they're not going to be like, oh, it's a great disaster flick or like an apocalypse flick. It's going to be like, no, this is a like insular sci-fi movie. So it's going to be a 1. I think it does register because this is a dangerous thing, but not really. More of a metaphor.
I think I'm willing to give points. I'm just like looking at scores I've given here, where the core was a 5. Maybe based on what we've watched, it goes up a bit, but
it's a good core sample.
Specifically, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I gave a 3. And the reasoning behind the low score was we were presented with the idea of the everything bagel that we thought would destroy the universe, when in reality it was a tool used to destroy its creator, to end their overarching experience of everything all the time. This really does. I mean, as you said, it's local. It's like a local phenomenon, but I think beyond some of the other things like Moonfall, if unchecked, this has the biggest potential to really just absolutely destroy Earth as we know it. Like, 12 monkeys, virus wiped out 95% of the population. If this problem wasn't solved, there wouldn't be any, it would eventually be 0% of the population, unless everyone would apparently turn into the flower people, which, might be chill.
There's worse things.
Yeah.
There's better things for sure.
So I think trying to view it in that way, it's to me, it's the most interesting of the threats we've had. But I think overall I'm agreeing with what you say, but I want to give it I want to give it a 4.
Do it.
You can give it a 4. You can legally do that.
I gave Geostorm a 4. This is a lot less apocalypse-y than Geostorm. I'll give it a 3.
Okay.
Somebody didn't like Geostorm.
Damn.
Yeah, so going into the movie theater, going in the movie meter, I don't think there's going to be any surprises. I fucking love this movie. Mm-hmm. It captured my imagination, I think, better than most sci-fi movies, and that's saying something because sci-fi is like my favorite genre. And I was just so blown away and having no expectations. Just Denali texting me and be like, "Hey, watch this movie." I can't watch it because I'm just got bonked in the noggin, but I read the books. And I don't know. There's something that you can't grasp about this movie. Like you can't just like reach out and take a hold of it and be like, "I have it all in my hand." Like you can grab some of it, but then someone else is like, "Yeah, but I grabbed something that's totally different than that." And that's, like we talked about, that's kind of the reason why I love movies. I don't love them because they're like making a lot of money for Gerard Butler. I like them because they kind of say something interesting, and it's a fun way to spend an evening when you feel like you're looking at art for 2 hours. I think the best performance in the movie, like I said, was Dr. Ventress, Jennifer Jason Leigh. She plays this understated character. And you think, like, when you first start watching the movie, you're like, how did they get this, like, normal person onto the movie set and make them say the lines? Because they're just, like, they don't give a fuck. Like, they don't care about what's going on at all. They're not interested at all. And that was such a different take on acting, not just on, like, type of character, but, like, on acting, that I don't know of any similar performances. And usually we say, like, you know, people are overacting, you know, when we try to critique acting. And then sometimes you can underact. And a lot of the times when we have these characters who are supposed to be kind of like low key and, you know, chill or cool under pressure, we feel like that's what the like really inspired roles are. Oh, this guy did really, really good. He kept his cool and he was like a normal person. But then again, like, I feel that an understated performance is a lot of the times overrated. But when I didn't even recognize her. I've seen her in so many movies, and then I like had to go on IMDb and like, who the hell is that? Because usually she's like got a lot of personality, and she's like really quick-witted and stuff, and she's tough. But in this movie, she's just like, yeah, we could go in there. And once again, it's really hard for me to describe why I love her character so much. And this is my third viewing. I didn't realize that she had cancer until this movie. Like, this viewing, I mean.
Like the character.
The character.
Yeah.
And that makes everything make, like, so much sense thematically, that she didn't care. She was trying to brush off. It's not a suicide mission. Mm-hmm. It kind of is, and she just doesn't care because she has cancer. And that is just terrific writing, number one, for it to be this character who is trying to keep something secret, was able to keep it secret from me, who proudly proclaims that I love this movie and I've seen it multiple times. Like, I don't know. There's something intangible about everything in this movie. And I think, yeah, there's not much more I can say. The professor trope, I guess, is one thing I made a note of that I really liked. In a lot of my favorite sci-fi movies, there's the trope that the main character is a professor. And thankfully, a lot of those times it turns out to be a woman. But like in Arrival, you know, Amy Adams' character is a professor. And then in Don't Look Up, we have a scientist being the main characters. Even in, I guess in Moonfall, right? There's like, that's kind of a vibe.
I mean, he was like a conspiracy scientist, right? Wasn't he like a hollow moonologist?
Oh, right. He was impersonating a professor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but in this case, like Natalie Portman was a professor, and so they went to her, and she's like an expert. That's great. We should be calling those people in to fix our real problems in the real world. Don't call on just like celebrities. I think I'm going to give this movie a 9. I've sat on this a lot, and for someone who says this is one of my favorite movies ever, it might not make a lot of sense why I'm giving it a 9, but like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't describe it, but this movie could be better because it could be 3 hours long. I think a lot of the time it's these slow burn movies I'm set in. I'm like, this is an epic. I'm going to put this on because I want this vibe. This is going to be my whole night. Let's go. But when it's an hour and 55 minutes, like, I feel like there could have been a lot more included, and I'm not worried about it selling to the masses. Well, they were, and they were wrong. So, like, do it my way. Okay, that's it.
More worms and stomach scenes in the 3-hour cut.
No, just for like a half hour, just watch that whole video.
God, that was so bad. Yeah, Ryan. I mean, I agree. I also love this movie. I mean, it's no secret just from how we've been talking about it for like the past hour or so. Going into it, I was like super apprehensive at first, like my first watch through a couple years ago, because I like loved this book series. I didn't know if they were gonna do it right, and they like didn't do it right, but it was excellent. Like that's the first time I've ever had that happen where they just did not give a like. Apparently, they didn't give a fuck about copying the book over, and it turned out even better. I think if they did a 1-to-1 adaptation, the movie wouldn't make sense and it wouldn't be as effective. So much about that book is the vibe and the way it's written. That belongs on the pages. I think this is the best possible movie adaptation you could have done for something like this. And I think it was effective in what it was trying to do. There's this deep sense of cosmic horror that's very Lovecraftian in this movie. I think everyone kind of gets that when they watch it. I mean, even if you don't like it, you're very uncomfortable when you see it at a visceral level. I mean, it's kind of like this sense of uncanny valley where you see like the roots growing through someone's skin, or like you see that scene where the worms are slithering inside somebody. That's like a very visceral reaction, and when you're tapping into those emotions, it's very powerful, particularly if you're digging into themes of like mutation and cancer and like like body horror. And I think this movie really nailed those things. The atmosphere, the score, the shots in this movie were all really excellent. I don't know how they scored a cast this good. I mean, the screenplay just must have been super fucking hype for them to do this. So I was happy to see it. Natalie Portman, when she was casted as the biologist, I was just like, fuck yeah, that was like my dream casting. I feel like she would just really nail this role, and she did. Ryan mentioned Jennifer Jason Leigh. Amber actually like talked about her scene too, where she was just kind of like, she's like, at first I thought she was like a bad actor, and I had the same reaction, but then I was like, no, she's actually like a really good actor.
She's too good.
Because as it like progressed, you're like, oh, she's doing like a really weird character, and her affect was so strange. But I feel like all the actors had an element of that too. Like even Oscar Isaac, when he comes back as like the mimic, or members of the team as they kind of like mentally break down. I don't think it really failed in any regard. For that reason, like I think I'm still gonna give it like a 9, similar to Ryan. I leave room at the top for movies that are like leave me totally like rapturous. Like Everything Everywhere All at Once for me was a 10. I feel like I had a really strong connection to that movie, and that's where I leave 10s for, or like Interstellar. However, a 9 is a pretty fucking good score. I will recommend this movie to like everybody, fans of the book or just fans of sci-fi in general. Good ass movie.
I think I'm going to be I'm going to bring up two things, something that I liked and some stuff that I didn't like. I've been reading a lot about languages and linguistics recently, and specifically about prosody, and that the English language is now I'm going to forget every single thing about it. But the stresses in the English language are dictated on volume, but also pitch. So when I say a word like that I want to emphasize, I will say it louder, and I will maybe even say it at a higher or lower pitch compared to different languages that function maybe only on pitch. And I thought that's something that I'm researching right now and learning about. And I thought it was very interesting in the opening scene that Natalie Portman's character delivers almost all of her lines very monologue, very flat. And it almost gives you the sense that after she's given this lecture, when she's talking to her coworker, that he says, we'll come to find that she cheated with this man, but he says, all work and no fun, it's unhealthy. She was talking very flat. It almost gives the image that the cancer cells in the lecture were hers, and that maybe she is unhealthy. And like viewing the start of the movie in this way made me think about it in a way that I hadn't before upon multiple viewings. So it was very interesting to me, and a high point that you can, even if it might not be technically correct, you can, view these things from the start to the finish, and you can sit in your own mind and be like, oh, what if that is the reason that she's going into the Shimmer? Because like I think Vanessa's character, who did have cancer, it's like, oh, maybe that's a reason. So I thought that was interesting. And then one thing, I think I would actually have to agree with that major producer that I think the end of the movie, where I would take points off of my rating, is that final sequence. A lot of it's really beautiful. I like a lot of the things as they melt, like the crystal trees. It's just a beautifully imagined world that I've never seen anything like. It would be amazing to be there. But I've got two gripes with it. The line, "It's the last phase, vanished into havoc, unfathomable mind, now beacon, now see," which is a quote, which doesn't, it's like, I
Sounds
like
fucking cool.
it took me, it's like, if I can't pinpoint the quote to like get it and be a part of it, and it just sounds like gibberish, which these two word sentences combined together do sound like, I can see why people would not appreciate that. They'd be like, what? And that scene moves into Dr. Ventress, not Vanessa, literally being dissolved and turned into what is called a mandel-bulb.
What?
A the thing that she turns into. It's called a mandel-bulb. It's a three-dimensional fractal constructed. This is from the Wikipedia. Constructed for the first time in 1997 by Jules Roos, and in 2009 further developed by Daniel White and Paul Neidler using spherical coordinates. It's basically it's a 3D fractal, crazy 3D fractal. So they put that into the scene where Natalie Portman's looking into the.
This shit is dope, dude. I'm looking at fucking Google Images.
Yeah, it looks cool as shit. And you get that, and it seems like they blew a lot of money to make that, because when she blows the phosphorus grenade on the alien creature and it walks back down in, it looks like they spent 30 minutes making one flame in whatever CGI artwork they were doing, and then they just copied and pasted it and mirrored it around the entire room. And
right.
I'm a bit trepidatious walking into it because of the quote thing that I really realized upon critical viewing. And I'm like, that doesn't look good. So the entire movie, like we've talked about, is a hit. It's really it's like filled with scenes that you'll be enjoying the visual, the audio. I've watched it multiple times. I think I'll probably, but it's an 8. It's an 8 for me.
Wow. Jace hates this movie.
Wow.
And actually, I think if they did the end in a different way, in a slightly different way, it could be a 10.
I'm surprised we had more than one good movie this season. And probably because it's not very much of an apocalypse movie.
Yeah, those are the two things they have in common.
Boy, oh boy, a real inverse relationship between movie score. I'm curious to see our graphs at the end of this season. But yeah, if you guys have any comments about this movie, drop it into our DMs. Let us know what you think about Annihilation. And, if you're a book reader too, I want to hear what you think about as well, because I have a lot of thoughts. And, you guys maybe check out those dang books by Jeff Vandermeer. You should just reread Annihilation, because you can't just pick up the second book after this. It's fucking crazy. If you want to dip your toes more into this world, you'll get more answers, but you'll get even more questions. You'll get 10 times more questions. If you thought this shit was confusing, just wait till you read those. It looks like we do have our next movie pick with Jace. Jace, we kind of talked a little off mic, but you said you had a couple
when Ryan
ideas.
Wasn't here.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I was floating the idea specifically. So we've watched one animated movie in 75. And it was Clifford.
What? All dogs go to heaven.
Oh, 2.
Well, Clifford was our first anime.
They're both in the dog season.
Yeah. Two anime movies, both in the dog season. That makes sense. So I was trying to pinpoint end of the world and apocalypse, and apocalypse movies, and was like, Ice Age, maybe. And then I was like, Yuri was like, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, or the first animated one, and that has some
sort of
some localized kind of world or universe ending type of thing. And neither of them really hit, and I couldn't come up with anything, and until I was just so magnificently perusing a thread, and there's this old anime that's it's a titular robot anime that has a movie that was supposed to be essentially episodes 25 and 26. And it's called Neon Genesis Evangelion, the end of Evangelion. And I saw in a thread somebody was like, do not fucking watch this movie if you have not watched the TV show. So I have I've got a picker wheel.
Oh my God.
What?
I've got a picker wheel. And
What's
Oh
on
my
it?
God.
you know,
Okay, hold on. I've seen quite a bit of the TV show, but I haven't seen the movie. And I know everybody, like, it's in one of the top rated movies on Letterboxd.
Oh, yes.
my God.
I love all three of these.
The letterbox
Okay.
is huge. So I was like, what's the one thing we haven't seen? We haven't seen a zombie end of the world movie, and we haven't
Yes.
really seen anything that's a hard comedy. So straight out of the gate, Shaun of the Dead and Train to Busan.
Okay.
Hell
Because
yeah.
they're both bangers. And then I was like, oh my God, I have to put Neon Genesis Evangelion on there
My
because
God.
it doesn't, it's going to be,
So this is like the Shark Boy and Lava Girl off my last picker wheel,
yeah.
but with a way bigger market share.
Neon Genesis Evangelion is like a true end of the world apocalypse. Like
That's a good movie,
robot.
everybody says.
Can I just say, and we were talking about this too, I've never seen Neon Genesis. I've seen like the
It's
first
pretty
two.
weeby.
Yeah, I've seen like the first 2 episodes, and I had to pick it up again. I was like, I'll just watch it again later. So if I see this last movie, you guys are condemning me to never properly enjoy Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yes.
Just
you
to
wanna
watch the
be-
episodes.
You have one
Yeah.
week. Good luck.
to watch 26 episodes of this 90s anime. I believe I have to buy them. And this is the good movie, right, Jace? Because there's an alternate reality movie.
Yeah, there
well,
is.
but, like-
So I believe episodes 25, 26 got turned into a movie that left a lot of people kind of upset. Wasn't very like film quality-esque. And I believe the end of Evangelion is the so-called remake a little bit later, more film-esque. Wraps everything up. I don't know. The 0-star and 1-star reviews or whatever on Letterboxd are the funniest thing.
Dude,
I've never seen the anime. What the fuck is this?
no, dude. Also, okay, the reviews for Annihilation are so funny. One of the top one is like, "This is what it feels like to chew 5 gum." like there are some good Letterboxd reviews, like unironically slap.
Okay. This is an alarming amount of this picker wheel.
It is.
I guess now's my chance to watch Neon Genesis, maybe backwards. Boy, oh boy, this is this is some wild shit. All right, Jace, like let's fucking do it.
We go.
Oh my god, it's spinning.
It's going.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Well, good thing we just spent the last 5 minutes talking about it.
I think we're gonna be really upset with me come next week.
Dude, we're gonna get so
can't
many
fucking
nerds watching
do
in.
this. You can't
So
fucking
bad.
do this.
Okay. I'm gonna click
We can
done
do no,
here.
we can do this. So we're watching Neon Genesis Evangelion. I am so excited to see this movie and get my first taste of
Does
this
not-
great acclaimed
You're not
anime.
doing a real good job here. You wanted to give that another take.
This is gonna be torture, I think. Which was
I'm
the
s-
point, but
I'm so excited, and I hope you guys can fill me in. And this movie made 2.47 billion yen in the box office. And
You
I don't
got
know
me, dude.
if that's a
You
lot.
actually- You had me.
I don't know how much that is, but I know this was a big movie. And do you guys want to? I forgot to do it last episode. Do you guys want to do like a GBGB thumbs up corner, like a recommends? You know, we did like a recommends before, and I kind of like that. Like, do you guys have anything you want to recommend this week? Some stuff on your mind, or just like things that are giving you a thumbs up feeling, things that are happening in your life.
I had something this week. I was like, I remember the last couple times I've copped out. I remembered something this week,
Oh,
and I forgot it.
oh,
So right now, I'm gonna recommend. So keep in mind, I haven't read the Annihilation book, but my favorite fantasy book, in a way that sci-fi and fantasy are kind of interrelated. It gives me the same vibe. It's very wordsmithy, and I would like to see a movie adaptation or make one or something like that. You know, like imagine that's like a dream, but like of this movie, and once again, not have someone follow the plot exactly, but kind of have like, I want to see someone else's take of it, because my worldview of this movie is like so fucking weird, and I wonder what other people would imagine if they're making it. It's called Shadow of the Torturer.
You were
I
telling me
think.
about this, Ryan. Yeah.
Kinky.
That's like the actual name. There's a lot of a lot of subtitles and stuff. And the two people who've read the book will be upset if I got it wrong. So actually during Thanksgiving, I had two friends over, and they both are from different parts of my life, and they both came over, and they're like carbon copies of the same person. And they were the only two people who had read Shadow of the Torturer, and they were like, "You're the only person I've ever met that's read it."
Spider-Man moment.
Yeah.
This the cover of this book is fucking sweet too.
Yeah.
I added it to my Goodreads, Ryan, when you recommended it to me, and I'm still getting there. It sounded cool.
Dude, 80s, 90s fantasy cover art slaps.
So good.
Like,
It's so good.
Insane.
If you can read like the first page or even the first 3 sentences of this book, and you'll be like, okay, I should probably read that.
Yeah. Cool. And
It's also
this is a
sci-fi.
book.
It's also sci-fi. It's actually not fantasy. It's sci-fi.
If you're in your local library, as you're listening to this podcast, for some reason, the Dewey Decimal Code is 813.5419.
Oh, there we
Thanks,
go.
Jason.
Maybe that'll help a
Shout
librarian.
out Dewey.
Yeah, big ups to Dewey.
BD.
And maybe if you're in those library computers, just maybe log in and rate our podcast 5 stars.
Yeah.
As well while you're in there.
Get the library an account on Spotify and then 5 stars.
And then, Jace, do you have something that you want to recommend this week?
Pellet smokers?
Pellets? Did you say pellet smokers?
Yeah.
Is that like
Yeah,
a
my
band?
dad's
or-
big on it.
For smoking food.
He finally switched to a pellet, and he won't shut up about it. He's like, it's got Wi-Fi. I can control it from my phone.
What? Oh, is it like a meat smoker?
Yeah,
where you-
yeah.
Oh, so you got a smoker. You've been putting up some smoker content, Jace. You got what was your most recent smoking project?
Smoking ribs right now.
Smoking ribs. How long does that take?
4.5 hours maybe with a good rest. 30 to 45 minute rest.
Oh yeah, that sounds pretty nice.
Put a pork shoulder in at midnight. Pull it out at 10 a.m. It's ready to shred.
So is this something that goes in your house or outside?
Outside,
Do you have home
I don't-
insurance?
Do you- All right, pellet smokers. That's been enlightening your life, Jace. You know,
Yeah, and it's very like late 20s, early 30s thing to do.
it's like a pre-dad thing. You
Yeah.
know, it's the dad skill that you need to get before you have like a kid.
It's like
And then, so
Ryan.
it's already ingrained. Like,
Ryan likes Geostorm. I smoke meat.
What do you do? Janelle's playing bass.
Yeah.
I'm not very dad-like. I guess is playing instruments. I guess dad-like. I guess
Learning
maybe
an
it is.
instrument in your 20s is very pre-dad.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Yeah, like for my recommends this week, I'll do 2 recommends. Okay. The first one is gonna be this album by Alex G, who's like one of my favorite artists. He has an album called House of Sugar. That's one of my favorite albums. It always reminds me of the fall, but he actually watched Annihilation as inspiration for the album. A lot of his music is really like considered experimental, but it's like very, very good pop music that has this really weird, sinister quality to it. Like it feels like something's wrong, but it also is really beautiful, and I think it kind of reflects the aesthetic of this movie. If you like the marriage between those two types of like textural aesthetics, maybe check out House of Sugar by Alex G. And then my other one is an album I've been listening to just more recently. This one is Dope Smoker by Sleep. There was recently a remaster of this album. It was recorded in 1996. This was a legendary stoner rock album that I've always wanted to listen to. I listened to it just in like this past month, and it is a fucking joy. It's just the heaviest, slowest, sludgiest metal album I've ever heard. It is one fucking song. It is 1 hour long, and it's just this whole album. It's called Dope Smoker, and it's the whole theme of the album is that it's a seance for these weed-smoking aliens called the Weedians, and it's like this big religious ceremony. It's metal as fuck, and it's ridiculous. The opening lyric is "drop out of life with bong in hand." It's amazing. So Dope Smoker by Sleep is my other album recommendation this week.
I just played both of them silently in the background, so they're in my recently played.
I have an
nice.
album that I listened to that I really liked that was just kind of instrumental, but it's only on my phone. That's my camera right now. So maybe next week.
Yeah, drop it in the chat. Drop it in next week. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us for Annihilation, and for you anime fans, we're gonna be watching Neon Genesis was it End of Evangelion?
End of Evangelion, yeah.
A lot of the E's there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
end.
Everything Everywhere All at Once, where you can kind of go and make a dolphin sound.
We're gonna get a lot of heat for that episode, and I can't wait. From all of those anime fans, recommend us to your local anime fan. Do you know any mutants? Recommend us to them too. Like, you know, anyone who's like half alligator or like, you know, like half bird or something or tree. That would be good. Thanks for joining us. And then is there something we want to say to the audience?
See you, nerds.